Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. As you guys know, the New York Knicks lost to the Miami Heat last night, the final score being 109-101 in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, as the New York Knicks find themselves down 3-1, not in a good position. Unless the New York Knicks are able to just take random adjustments out of their ass and somehow win 3 in a row, they'll be in good shape. But obviously, when you take a look at the games, the Heat have absolutely outclassed the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks season could have ended last night in 4 if Jimmy Butler went on to play in Game 2. But at the end of the day, Jimmy Butler is not able to play in Game 2. We could talk about the officials, but Jalen Brunson stepped up down the stretch. Josh Hart was obviously big time on the boards, making reads, hitting big threes. Julius Randle played well, RJ played well, etc. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're in this position that we're down 3-1. History is not on our side. The New York Knicks have never come back from a 3-1 deficit in their franchise's history. The Miami Heat have never blown a 3-1 deficit or blown a 3-1 lead in their franchise's history as well. So the history is just not on the New York Knicks side, and the Heat have been playing better basketball. And when you're entering a series, you always have this mentality that you hope your team wants it just as much as the other team. And that's just not the story of this series at all. The Miami Heat have looked like the team with way more effort. They're willing to get the 50-50 balls. They're willing to scrap, and the New York Knicks have not brought that to the table. We look like the Cleveland Cavaliers of this second round of the playoffs. We look like the way more physical team than Cleveland, but this series, it's a totally different story, and we could talk about maybe we have more upside talent than the Miami Heat, but it really doesn't mean anything if you don't have on par coaching. Eric Spoelstra is willing to make adjustments. His defensive schemes, they trust the pass. It doesn't matter if they're second round picks, undrafted players. He plays guys throughout their strengths. And you got Jimmy Butler over there, who's a stud in the playoffs, and he handles doubles and blitzes better than Donovan Mitchell. He's way more poised in those situations. He's been in the league longer, finished with 10 assists, so he still finds ways to impact the game. Obviously on the defense side of the basketball as well. I know he still had, I believe, still over 20 points in last night's game, but he finds ways to impact the game in different ways compared to a Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell may have the superstar talent, but Jimmy Butler is a superstar IQ, and we knew obviously the focal point or the X factors were Julius Randle and Bam Adebayo. How do they step up? Who steps up on a more consistent basis? And Bam Adebayo he's had more heart in this series. He's gave it his all more, and he's been better on both ends of the floor on a consistent basis compared to a Julius Randle. Bam's got he's got some shots taken at him for how he's performed in the playoffs, but he's been way more physical, and he's just owned Mitchell Robinson, to be completely real with you guys, and that's been one of the main reasons we haven't been successful in this series. Who was awesome last series? Mitchell Robinson. He was able to hold his own up against Evan Mobley and a Jared Allen, but Bam's way more physical. Zeller comes in the game. He's very physical with Hartenstein, or even when Mitchell Robinson's out there on the basketball floor. And Mitch is showing some bad habits that sometimes he dips the basketball. It can be knocked out of his hands. Obviously, that was a big time Game 1 when Mitchell Robinson had the ball. He kept about above his head, and then he dipped it a little bit. But sometimes Kyle Lowry's is very scrappy, and he's able to knock the ball out of the center's hands. But Mitch has to be stronger with the basketball, and it's just can you just develop one hook shot? When he's out of the dunker spot, he just looks completely lost as a player. But we've got now a rebound. And that was literally the story of this game. When this was a game in the fourth quarter, we have 8 offensive rebounds the entire game. How many they have in the fourth quarter? They have 8 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. So we never got really any consistent offense to go because we kept on giving them second chance opportunities, and they were beating us at our own game. We're not this great 3-point shooting team, so we need to get those offensive rebounds and get brand new possessions. That has not happened in this series. So credit to Bam Adebayo, credit to Zeller when he's tracking the game. He has owned Mitchell Robinson when it comes to physicality, positioning themselves, but also it's on the entire team. It's not just on Mitch to rebound. Others need to fight for the boards as well, the entire team. In the fourth quarter, someone needs to learn to take over. And Josh Hart, he's the one that comes up with those big time momentum rebounds, and we need momentum plays if we want to win this series. And Josh Hart, 3 rebounds last night. That's not Josh Hart's game at all. And the Heat just have been way more physical. They've been way better when it comes to the physicality side of things, and they're a better 3-point shooting team. When it comes to on paper and just their ability to really show it. Out there on the floor, production-wise, it's not an accident why they beat the Milwaukee Bucks, or that didn't happen by accident. Even with Giannis out a couple of games, they still won at 5. That's still a good team. The Heat they weren't able to beat the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in, but just something about this team. They're just a very well-oiled machine, and you got to give credit to the Miami Heat. You got to give credit. They had the worst offensive rating in the regular season, but the first round of the playoffs was versus the Bucks, best offensive rating. Because when that 3 ball's falling, it's totally different. And this team's just built mentally for the NBA playoffs. They flip that switch and they make adjustments. You got to give credit. Wow, there's times I don't know what Tom Thibodeau's doing. He doesn't treat all players with the same amount of respect. Julius Randle, you're not playing hard on defense out there. You know what? You get to stay in the game. RJ, you're trying. I'm taking you out of the game. Like, some things just make no sense. And I swear Tom Thibodeau has favorites on this team. So we should never have to question if our effort is on par with the opposing teams. But by far, the Heat's effort has been way better than the New York Knicks, no doubt about it. And that's why I wanted to bring this up. I'm not just trying to point one finger at this one player, but we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it because it's the second time he has not stepped up in the playoffs once again. He wasn't good in the first round matchup. He had some nice moments defensively being physical with a Mobley, but he's really bad offensively in the Cleveland series. And I understand he has this ankle injury, and I appreciate his toughness coming back on this ankle injury. He's terrific in the regular season, 25-10. But he's not the only one injured. Maybe his ankle may be more severe, but the way he talks about it in the post-game press conference, like when they ask him questions about it, he always brushes it aside like, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. If it's nothing, or if you're toughing up and you're playing in the playoffs, play your ass off. We're not getting that vibe from Julius Randle at all, at least in this series. Nothing at all. Standing around, terrible body language. Obviously, we've seen this before, but a buck was allowed in transition. What's Randle do? Puts his hand up. He's just walking. He just doesn't look like he's interested. My brother, who doesn't really watch basketball, is saying the same shit. He's like, why does it look like he doesn't want to be there? It looks like he doesn't even give a shit out there on the floor. He's slow on closeouts. He's slow at rotating over when it comes to his assignments. This is the playoffs. You go on to say in the post-game press conference when they ask them about like the offensive rebounds by the Heat and all their effort. And Randle goes on to say, like, I don't know, they may want it more. They may want it more, I don't know. He goes on to say, they may want it more, I don't know. Like, you should never have to question your effort in the second round of the playoffs. That's unacceptable. It's just absolutely unacceptable. We could talk about his style of play and all that, his basketball IQ, but right there just says it all. Maybe he's not really feeling that, and he's just out of emotion right now, and he's just pissed off, but are you kidding me? Like, are you? And we could talk about his 20 points and on solid efficiency. He played like shit. There's both ends of the basketball, and he played like shit on defense. He's been getting bitched all series. He had 6 turnovers. He had 6 fouls. He fouled out of the game. Like 4 of them were like offensive fouls. He was out of control. He never makes the right play. It's very inconsistent when he makes the right play. His shots were falling yesterday, and there were some shots I'm like, I don't know if that's a good shot. It goes in. I'm not going to say his shot die was completely terrible. We've seen worse. But he's 28 years old. We can't act like he's 23 years old. He lacks a proper feel for the game. There's no effort in the second round of the playoffs. I don't care. He could have shown more. But at the end of the day, he didn't. He did not. You can't just be balling out in the regular season, averaging 25-10, even though I knew certain parts of his game weren't going to adjust because he attempts 8 threes per game, but they only go in at a 33% clip, so I knew he was going to be up and down. But we appreciate you helping us get to this moment in the regular season, but if you don't step up and your attitude is shit, it means nothing, and I don't want him on this team anymore. I don't know what we'll get for this dude, but it really means nothing if you perform in the regular season and don't do shit in the playoffs, because I'm putting this up on the screen right here. So I believe the NBA started up in 1944. You look at the worst field goal percentages on the minimum of shots, minimum of games in the playoffs. Entering last night's game. The worst field goal percentages in NBA history by players. Julius Randle's up there with my great-grandpas, my great-great-great-grandmas. 44%, like, lower than 44%. These are players from 1944, and then you have freaking Julius Randle up there on the screen. Like, are you kidding me? It's just bad. It's just so bad. He just has us scratching our heads because he has so much talent, but he doesn't have the IQ, and he's a human being at the end of the day, and we deal with things mentally, but not everyone's built for New York. Not everyone is built for New York. RJ Barrett's figuring it out. Obviously, he's in a totally different role, and when these guys get it going offensively, obviously there's different defensive coverages being brought at them, but RJ's figuring it out. He struggled last game, but outside of like game 1 and game 2 where he really struggled, he's been playing good basketball. He's been playing more good than bad basketball compared to Randle, at least on the offensive end. Still up and down defensively. I'm going to hold everyone accountable. This entire team's been up and down defensively. But RJ knocked down his threes last night. He was decisive. He played well. 24 points on solid efficiency. He was hitting his three. And you could tell he's actually watched film and he's figuring it out. Randle has to figure it out. But at this, I don't know he's going to figure it out. I really don't know. I'm not going to say Brunson was perfect defensively, but we all know our expectations entering the season with Brunson. We knew he wasn't some fantastic defender, but we know when Randle's engaged, he's a good defender. That's the frustrating thing. But Brunson, 32 points. He had 11 assists last night, and I believe he's the first guard in the playoffs to do that since Walt Frazier. Can't talk about that because the Knicks play like shit. But he had like one turnover. He took care of the basketball. There's some plays that I'm like, make that read there, but this team's nothing without Brunson. This team is nothing. We would not be in the second round of the playoffs. We might lose in the play-in without Brunson. He's the heart and soul of this team. Randle may have the better stats, but Brunson's the more mature player. He knows how to deal with the media better. He knows how to deal with adversity better. He is poised through all situations, good and bad. He's clutched down the stretch of games. And we had to go away from our recipe for success in the regular season that Randle sets the tone. There's more on Brunson's plate that Brunson's like, all right, now I have to set the tone and I have to close out the games. There's a lot more on my plate here, especially with the bench not stepping up. The bench has been ass in this series. Quickly obviously goes down, sends prayers out to Quickly, but Obi comes to the game, puts up a couple threes way off, chucked them up there, and then on the defense side of the basketball, we don't get back. These damn outlet passes. But credit to Jimmy. Jimmy Butler has that team ready. Eric Spoelstra has that team ready. It's both of their team. Mentally tough as shit. Gets tough buckets. Jimmy Butler gets to the free throw line. We could talk about the officials, but at the end of the day, that's just what happened. They got to the free throw line. There were some bad calls, but Knicks play like shit. Why can I say the Knicks played like shit? They got bitched once again. We've started Grimes, but I knew things were really over. When you start changing up lineups and you start second guessing, then it's like, that team got you. That team got you. Thought Grimes competed hard. He made a few threes last night. He had a three to really get us even closer. The amount of times that it was like an 8-point game, cut to 4, 7-point game, cut to 3. Like the amount of times we had a lead for like 1 second in the first half. We were sloppy in that first half. I thought we were going to come out playing cleaner basketball than that. But it's just not the team we are. We're going to be the scrappy team. But the Heat just have been outclassed us. We're not a great three-point shooting team, so we got to get these offensive rebounds to get brand new possessions. And that third quarter, when we're really starting to score, when we're shooting 70%, like the first 2 minutes in, and shot 50% in that quarter, it didn't matter. The Heat had an answer for everything. They had an answer for everything. Bam Adebayo, a beast in the interior. You had Max Strus coming off screens, knocking down a few threes. Jimmy Butler getting to the foul line. Kyle Lowry comes off the bench. He killed us this series. He's outclassed our entire bench. He outscored our bench like all by himself. They got those timely shots in the fourth quarter. This is a close game because it's been a close game, like 4-point game, 5-point game. It always looks like they're going to pull away. We come back, and it's just like we have a shot. But when we finally start playing defense, we can't get a board. The amount of times, offensive rebound after offensive rebound, we had 8 offensive rebounds this entire game. They had 8 offensive rebounds in that fourth quarter. They want it more. They want it more. You should never have to think that as your team, but when your guy that's supposed to be like a leader, or at least a second leader on this team of Randle saying like, they may want it more, I don't know, you're in shit. Like, you're in shit. You're in shit. They beat you mentally. The Miami Heat have beat us mentally. I don't know what to say. Like, obviously, if I'm looking back before the season started, I didn't expect us to go to the second round of the playoffs. But in the moment right now, it's like, this is where we are. We're down 3-1. It sucks. Let me know down below your thoughts. Peace out, y'all.